August 21st, 2018. The moral of a thoroughly detailed story means nothing to someone with a view from miles away. In order to understand the point, you have to listen and pay attention. Look them in the eyes because you love them, and accept the pain and grace that they're about to reveal to you. Every one of us has their own personal story as to the theme of money in a timeline that unfolds throughout their life. And if you're interested, here's mine. Well, the briefest summation of a few key memories I specifically selected to convey my ultimate point here being my current state. I remember Mother always saying if I talked to the Hendrickses when I grew up, it would be for money. Of course, hearing this incessantly from the time I was 3 on, I had no concept or real ideal of what she was meaning. All I knew was that it was bad, and that money was no price I would ever pay to be in part of such disloyalty, an unforgiven damnation of something so unacceptable. The effect of such an act was nothing I delved into in any detail of my extensive imagination, because it was nothing I would ever do. And this undefined, vague definition of money in relation of exchange for said unpardonable sin actually came to be quite specific in nature to what money, over the next 36 years of my life, truly came to manifest in form over my life, and how I lived dedicated to such an ideal. My mother always had a weekly list of slave-staking chores that were endless on top of the volunteered labor she always committed me to do periodically for all of my early years. Mowing lawns weekly included our own, my grandparents, and our neighbors Ruth and Bobby once a week every season because it was my responsibility. Keep in mind that not once was I ever paid for any lawn any season. There were always other tasks of babysitting, car washing, shoveled snow, and driveways, to mention a few of these civic duties deemed by Mother's offering. And as for my chores at home, I made mustard gas essentially to toothbrush the woodwork in every room on every floor of the house, scale 12-feet ladders at 5 to dust fan blades, roomfuls of plants from floor to ceiling with leaves I baby oiled the tops and bottoms of on every leaf on every plant because Mother liked them shiny. And these are just a few of the tedious tasks that I was to do on a weekly basis every year that I was growing up for nothing, for no money anyway. And as for the last 20 years of my own daughter's life, I was very specific and had a few choice ideals that I knew she wouldn't receive or have the impression of any importance anywhere else. And I watched for examples of these to pass and made a point at my every chance that came in a day for these to be noticed and seen for what they were. I was acutely aware from a very young age the exchange of a person's time for money, and the misery and pain so deeply convicted in the souls of every man I'd ever encounter, with a person's living always being up in front at topics of conversation, be it a friend or a stranger, and the suffering of the people in their endless agony of slaving away and never getting ahead, and all of their priceless, precious time gone. When I reflect back to my methods and practices as a parent from the beginning, I was so determined to show my child that money was worthless, and it was in fact time that was the priceless thing that revealed its magic with each moment being a gift from God, and how important it was to be in communion with the only thing we ever truly have, and that's now, right now, and to be genuinely connected to the holy grace within each second as a gift to share with one another. Now, mind you, clearly I came to exchange my time for cash and work for a living, but I was still very particular and would only exchange my time for money for certain things, and it was fairly virtuous. I mean, for the most part, it wasn't ever a compromise of my integrity, that's for sure. But about 11 years ago, I quit working for reasons that don't need to be mentioned because it's not relevant to the point. However, after about 1 year of my purposely unemployed world, I was told to get a job or else. And that was only the beginning of my being told this phrase by so many, including my child at the time, still now today. She's 20 and telling me this. I was also very liberal in effect with my child to live free and do of her own will, and to not be told what to do or how to be, and to follow her own heart and ask her how she felt instead of telling her. So at the cost of something priceless, time with my child, I would have had to alter this ideal. Which one? Both of them are at hand. This meaning I served to a fault, and everything I had ever been and maintained would mean nothing, I felt, at least. That's what I thought at the time. And to endure one more second away from her was even more unbearable, but bear it I did. However, I believed through it all that what I would be compromising would cost her much more, and that these beliefs I lived out when challenged, specifically, inflicted such pain over our lives when I refused to bow down and do as I was told, came to bear such a cost of time that cannot be returned. None of it was easy. It was all so painful, and even now still brings me to my knees when just the thought of her glimpses my mind, when I hear her voice, whenever I see her. Dear God, the pain I cannot convey nor can I shake. And now, God, now that I'm sitting here with no phone to hear her voice, no home, to have her bring my grandson to stay with his mammy. Her mom has no home, and she can't even call me to see if I'm alive or whatever it is her sweetheart feels, and must be ashamed and worried, and doesn't understand what I thought I had inexplicably showed her at every turn by example of all in passing so easily and predictable are the actions of others as they came to bear this weight I'd point out to her. Clearly confused, how could she understand? Ultimately, I'm almost 40 fucking years old, and I'm terrified. I'm ridden with fear, and I don't know where to begin. And I'm so scared and so totally unmotivated in utter depression. I'm overcome with complete sadness, and it's knocked me on my ass and holding me under. I can't breathe. It's been nearly 4 weeks now since I've moved from my home into a storage unit and my car, and I've mastered the techniques of endless talents and industrious skills over my life, and yet they don't translate into money. For my pleasure is ditch digging on the house of offerings to my fellow brethren in kind, pays an unseen reward that's not accepted as currency, and the bartering system is non-existent for all intents and purposes of the only financial exchange trade that thrives and dominates any and all transaction. I've extracted through elimination in my world's entirety for over a decade, preaching the answers to a lost world. I have been found and free. Yet now I'm suddenly struck with the reality of the situation that surrounds me, with where I dedicated my every step to lead me to where I am. And I look around and I'm lost and shackled to the infinite walls of my own prison, unable to function or participate in this established system. I denied without acknowledgement. Ignoring it, I was unaffected by it completely, and for over a decade basically content without desire or want for anything more than what I had. I'm in a daze, and I feel myself nodding in and out of a dream I can never remember. Delicate fury, I am lost in endless pressure, silent and in vain mostly it feels. I just want to worry my way home and see Laybell. I don't understand why the delay, it's killing me. I love you, Bug.